My mother's name is Margery Powell, and she and her partner, Miriam McCarrell, they started Handcraft House in a small way on Marine Drive in North Vancouver. And it was a small gallery space where they were mostly showing pottery, as I remember it, and then they had classes happening in the back. I think that the thing about Handcraft House was that I think that the time that it existed, it started off, I think, very much part of this sort of earlier, 50s and 60s sort of crafts when people were doing like, Bronson lace, like table mats. And then this sort of younger sort of hippies got in, started coming to Handcraft House and got engaged with, myself and my mother's partner, Miriam McCarrell, and they were interested in, more of the back to the land movement. So they were doing work like, they were interested in getting the sheep, the fleece, and spinning it and making, wool blankets and ponchos and all of that kind of thing. So, so it was a kind of a real hub. I don't know if it was partly the time, like the 60s. I mean, there was this sort of like in art, this real move away from, galleries, right? I mean, everybody was showing, and it was the beginning of artist-run centers, and everything was like being done in the moment, right? And there wasn't like a lot of affiliation with established galleries. So I think that was part of it too, right? That there was, people were not interested in sort of, that, collecting, saving, selling. That was all kind of like, meh, boring. Yeah, but now that I'm my age, I think, oh shoot, why didn't I save some of that stuff? I know I took this class from, I was taking classes at UBC, and I was taking a class with Michael DeCourcy and in photography, right? And, just to give sort of a flavor, I mean, we would take our photographs and then we would throw them all on the floor, and then we would walk around and be stepping on them and like looking at them, and they were just kind of splish splash in the darkroom. There was no idea about like archiving or saving or selling, or that was all considered not very cool. So the work that I'm remaking for this exhibition, it interests me to remake it. I've known Alan Collier for a number of years, and he's curating or co-curating this exhibition. And he was asking me, because of my connections with Handcraft House, about getting textiles and textile arts for the exhibition. And it became clear that it was rather difficult. There wasn't a lot of it around. And he said, well, I did see this picture of this piece that you did. It's on the internet. And I looked at it, and I don't still have the piece, but I did it when I'm now 70, I did it when I was 22 maybe. And so I was like amazed that it was on the internet, but I think because galleries are now uploading their archives, it appeared. So anyway, he was going on and he was trying to find work, and he wasn't able to get very much work, or he said he was difficult. And I can see why, because people, they weren't collecting the stuff, and also textiles, it's like, wool stuff gets moths, and anyway, it's not that easy to preserve, and a lot of the stuff was big and kind of wild and woolly and so forth. But I certainly now, at my age, like I was saying, that I really realized that if I don't remake this piece, like that history will be really gone, because there's a catalog and there's an exhibition. And how often does an exhibition like that happen? Like once? You're not going to be having another show of crafts from the 70s. So if it isn't inserted now, it'll be completely gone. And I think that it actually was, now that I look back on it, you don't think in the time because you're swimming in it. But when you look back on it, you think, oh, it's the beginning of like, feminist art, thinking about, women making art. It was like, it was, textile arts. It was like the sort of hippie movement in Vancouver. There were so many things that are actually really interesting about it. And I did suddenly feel like, oh, I understand. I understand now why it's important that things are collected. Because if they're not collected and they're not looked after, then they're gone.